Well, guys, we are back for another episode of the Liberal Asshole Show, episode 42. So, what are today's topics?
Russo-Ukraine war update, Alex Jones's latest meltdown, Rave Dubin being a dad and Cunts for aging, Jfk harassing Ketanji Brown Jackson, Stuart Varney going after Trump for the big lie, Trump wants to send Ukraine nuclear subs, and Republicans still against interracial marriage.
Okay, I can't wait to laugh at those last few ones. But of course, we need to do an update on the Russo-Ukraine war, as you see the map. And for all of you that didn't know, recently, Ukraine actually is doing somewhat of a counteroffensive. They actually, if the reports are true, they actually pushed Russia away from Kiev. I think it was at their closest, like 25 kilometers or kilometers or whatever, since we don't use that metric here. And they pushed them back like 50, so they like doubled the space between them and Kiev.
Nice.
And they're doing it offensive. You see on the map, there's yellow lines showing where Ukraine's doing their advances, if you see that. So they are doing advances somewhere. And also, we have an update to the death figures, because officially, an update now, officially Russia says they've had almost 1,400 killed and almost 4,000 wounded. But, one of their news agencies had a memo of theirs that was leaked, and if it was true, Russia lost somewhere between 10 to 20,000 troops, actually.
Holy crap.
And they actually, nuked the articles after the leak.
That's hilarious.
So, according to NATO now, NATO's even bigger. NATO says they think 30 to 40,000 troops were killed, and 7 to 15,000 were captured. Casualties in total, 30 to 40,000 casualties, which is deaths and injuries. America says 15,000 killed or wounded. And Ukraine, this has, I don't know if this updated recently, but according to this on March 12th, it says they've lost 1,300 troops. America says they've lost 2 to 4,000. But like we said, never believe either figure because everyone lies.
The first casualty of war is always the truth.
And of course, now I'm looking at the civilian casualties because we haven't talked about that in a while. According to Ukraine, they've lost between 38 to 4,200. UN says 1,000 were killed and another 1,700 were wounded. And of course, somewhere between 3.7 to 6.5 million refugees from this war too so far. Jeez. And of course, also covered recently, they did a massive strike on one of their ports, I think in Mariupol. That actually took down a Russian ship, if you didn't know about that.
Yes, I heard that yesterday. That was pretty epic.
And there was another memo that was supposedly leaked that Putin wants to end the war by May 9th to commemorate the end of World War II. Because you know they do massive celebrations for that, remember?
Yes.
So unfortunately, looks like Russia will not give up at the earliest until maybe then, which is another month, like almost a month and a half still to go.
Yeah.
And so looks like Ukraine in some ways are turning around actually. But do you think they're still going to I doubt win, but get themselves out of it more better than before?
Probably.
Because supposedly Russia's, according to the Pentagon, Russia's actually might be changing their plans. Instead of going for Kiev, they might try and take over as much of eastern Ukraine as possible. And I don't know as much difference from the Donbass area. They have, honestly, outside of that area north of Luhansk or Donetsk, they haven't really done much advancement there either, if you notice. So what do you guys say about this so far?
It is very interesting. I think it's pretty cool that Ukraine's actually able to push back now. They've actually regained ground. But
Yes.
man, the civilian toll, the infrastructure that's being destroyed.
In Mariupol, I think it's said, CNN said up to 90% of civilian structures have been destroyed already.
No surprise.
Well, we can only hope that this ends as quickly as possible, but as long as it continues, we're going to keep updating each week. Just keep fighting on Ukraine and getting as best deal as possible. Alright, so I don't think there's much left to talk about that at the moment, so let's get on to the video that you wanted to cover. Let's see, what did Alex Jones have a meltdown about this time?
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, what did he have a meltdown about this time? Oh my god.
Hold on.
I don't think we've ever even covered Alex Jones yet on this show.
With that once, I think.
And I don't know if we actually even covered a TYT video. So let's see what he did this time.
Can you hear me?
I will eat my neighbors. I'm
Let
not
me
letting my kids
say it.
die.
This is about main wildest
I will eat my neighbors. I'm not letting my kids die.
It was really particularly nuts.
I will eat your ass. I will eat my neighbors. I'm not letting my kids die. I'm just going to be honest. My superpower is being honest. I've extrapolated this out, and I won't have to for a few years because I got food and stuff. But I'm literally looking at my neighbors now going, I'm ready to hang them up and gut them and skin them and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. My daughters aren't starving to death. I'll eat my neighbors. See?
The fact that that doesn't even sound like your most craziest thing is stunning.
And honestly, I'll eat your ass. I will.
Quite a kink you got.
Combat mode. Self-sufficiency. Probably the leader. The point is have you thought about that yet? Because I'm somebody that thought I could fix this, and I'm starting to think about having to eat my neighbors. You think I like sizing up my neighbor? How I'm going to haul him up by a chain and chop his ass up? I'll do it. My children aren't going hungry. I will eat your ass.
John, I did some digging into this. This is a true story, and I did find that...
Did he get into too many conspiracy theories lately?
I know that he's arguing with QAnon, because he doesn't seem to believe that, but he's got his own set of crazy things around believing steps and that.
So you're saying there's an actual conspiracy that's apparently too crazy for him even. Unbelievable.
Alex Jones was in fact in band when
more
he was in high
like
school.
it's someone that takes money away from him.
However, he is a bit rusty with the trombone these days.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, you know, I started off my day having a crazy person yell at me through a video camera that he's going to eat my ass over and over and over. Now I got that in my head. Thanks a lot for that. That was... Look, I understand this is why people watch him. It's for content like that, so he's going to do what he's going to do.
He is really funny for us that think it's silly.
So he kept alternating between, I will eat your ass, and I'm not going to let my kids starve. But he never says, I'm going to have my kids eat humans. He seems really focused on what he's going to eat, with the excuse being, I don't want my kids to starve. It kind of seems like you guys still have food, your kids are eating it, but you're eating humans? I don't know why. He says, do you think I like sizing up my neighbor? You're doing it pretty early in this. Like, you're not starving, but you're already thinking about doing it. That seems sort of weird.
That's why bipartisanly. Come on over here. Come on over here. No, you flip me off. Come on, coward. No. Come on. You're not intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
He actually got triggered because someone gave him the finger and chased after him.
No. Flip me off. You're not intellectual. You're a dumbass. You coward. Yeah. You know something? I'm not afraid of you people. You got something to say? Say it. You got nothing intellectual. Yeah, because you're an intellectual dumbass who watches mainstream media. Anyways. Cowards.
That guy cracks me up, man. At least he's entertaining. Okay. Who in the middle of a news report runs after somebody like that? Who thinks that it is a smart thing to say that you are an intellectual dumbass?
I'm never a lesser to evils person, but with Hillary, there's not even the same universe. I mean, she is an abject, psychopathic demon from hell that as soon as she gets into power is going to try to destroy the planet. I'm sure
so is the orangutan.
Say she's so dark now and so evil and so possessed that they are having nightmares. Folks, let me just say something. If the media wants to go with this, that's fine. There are dozens of videos and photos of Obama having flies land on him indoors at all times of the year, and he'll be next to 100 people and no one has flies on him. Hillary, reportedly, I mean, I was told people around her that they think she's demon possessed, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and say it, okay?
Hey, I remember when you said that about Obama when that fly or whatever landed on him, if you remember that years ago.
Yes, I remember that.
Scared. That's why when I see her, when kids are by her, I actually get scared myself with a child. I mean, that big rubber face and that I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you. She is a demon.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, look, I don't know. I can't help but laugh as I've heard that clip 3 times, and every time I literally LOL. But this guy's relevant? This guy has access to real power in the world? The sad part is how many people believe this insanity. And for the ultra-religious, it makes some degree of sense, because they'll believe anything. They think a guy walks on water or raises people from the dead. So when you say someone is demon-possessed, to the rational world, that sounds insane. To maybe fundamentalist religious folks, that says, well, obviously. Well, why else?
It sure is funny to us.
It definitely is. I remember Operation 666.
I remember
they put on the donkey mask and ran about that for like 4 minutes. Oh, that was funny.
So, what do you guys say about that since you brought it up?
Oh, I love hearing a few of the strangest moments from Alex Jones.
We need to find. We need to just find a video that's just him just raging nonstop for us to laugh at. That's what I was honestly hoping that this would be. Hey, at least he's open about his new kink, apparently, everybody. Alright, so now we're going to have to go from laughing to now being mad. As for the first time, I think, on the show, we're going to make fun of Rave Dubin. But, of course, we're also going to be angry at the same time because, for all of you that don't know, Rave Dubin, or as he's known as Dave Rubin, actually, he used to be part of TYT, and then he did his own spin-off show, The Rubin Report. He used to be good. Even when he left TIT for a bit, he was good. But then he just went downhill after that. No longer an atheist, no longer a liberal. Would not be surprised if he renounces him being gay and all that, like Milo did. Oh my god, it'd be so sad. So anyways, recently, he and his partner found out that they're going to be dads soon. And of course, 2 gay men having kids. Oh, you know how the right are triggered by that. And, oh, did they have a giant meltdown over it. So, let's go watch Mike's video on it.
Dave Rubin is the token gay conservative who gets paid by right-wingers to essentially tell them that their homophobic views are perfectly valid and definitely not bigoted, and that's his whole shtick. That's why they pay him the big bucks. He, as a gay man, uses his gay identity to legitimize homophobia, and his whole shtick is that actually right-wingers aren't bigoted against gay people, contrary to popular belief. They're the most tolerant and open-minded. I would know. I'm a gay man. And
I remember that common trope back a few years ago, how silly it was.
Conservatives, and they seem perfectly accepting of me. Except we know that that's not true, and Dave Rubin only LARPs as a conservative because he values money over his own dignity. Now, he made an announcement that him and his husband are having 2 kids. 2 babies, in fact. And his fans gave him a brutal reality check, reminding him that they're not as tolerant as he's paid to say they are. Now, I couldn't actually see the announcement because Dave Rubin has had me blocked for years. Not
hey, he blocked me too, remember, years ago.
He screenshotted for all of us behind the block, saying, "I never thought leopards would eat my face. Sobs man who voted for the leopards eating people's faces party." Now, Know Nothing juxtaposes
Jones would say, "I'm gonna eat your face."
This announcement of the 2 babies with the response from his conservative audience, and as you are going to see, they ruthlessly condemn him for this, and it is brutal. So this person says, "Don't call yourself a conservative if you celebrate this." How?
Yes. In order to be a conservative, you have to be against gay marriage and gay rights and all that. Of course.
Is this not illegal? How is this dude conservative? This ain't it, Chief. Feel bad for the kids. Dave, I love you, brother, but not this. Do what you want, but a child needs a mother and a father. How is this okay? Wow, never knew renting a woman's womb was checks notes conservative.
But it sure is capitalistic, and I thought you guys like capitalism.
Yeah.
Now, what I find entertaining about this is the fact that so many conservatives are denouncing the commodification of a woman's womb. Aren't you all capitalists? I mean, this is This is capitalism.
But as we all know, conservatives only like capitalism when it's something that they like. But if it's something they don't like, then they want to abolish it.
I don't know what else to say about that. But that's just kind of the response from some of the people who tune into him, and many of them let him know that this is it. This is kind of a bridge too far for them. But there were some prominent conservatives who responded in a very, very disgusting way. Milo Yiannopoulos, for example, supposed, quote, ex-gay, and a guest on the Rubin report, I believe they were friends at one point, chimed in saying, disgusting, they should both be executed.
Both should be executed. Milo!
You should be executed for supporting child rapists, Milo.
Milo, you really are pushing your buttons at getting yourself banned from social media and making it harder for us to defend you if you're going to say stuff like that. Jeez.
Let's just pause for a moment. The reaction here to him celebrating this pivotal moment in his life, becoming a father, is you should be executed. Still think that the conservatives are more tolerant and open-minded, Dave?
Yes, Mike. I agree with that.
I've got more for you. Mark Dice.
Oh, no, not Mark Dice. No. Oh, boy.
This is horrifying. Buying women's eggs and then renting other women's wombs to grow, quote, their children who will be deprived of their mothers and instead forced to be raised by two gay men as, quote, theirs. Any Christian or conservative congratulating them is just as bad as the Marxists. You have Denise McAllister saying, to purposely deny a child his or her mother to gratify your need to fill the empty void within caused by your sin, and to construct a false family because you have rejected God's holy means to create a real family is nothing less than child abuse. I pray for your repentance. Jason Robert says, this is really disgusting. Having a Lux baby is not it. No respect for this from me. This person simply calls it human trafficking. This person says, sorry man, here is where we part ways. And the hate continues. It goes on and on.
But remember, guys, it's actually conservatives that are supportive of gays.
And it is uncomfortable to read. As bad as a person as Dave Rubin is, I honestly started to feel bad for him, but then I reminded myself, you don't really have to feel bad because this is the life that he chose for himself. This is him laying in the bed that he made for himself. Again, he chose money over his own dignity, and I'm sorry, he deserves this. This is what he gets. Now, to be absolutely fair here, not all conservatives were against this. You had some individuals like Megyn Kelly, Meghan McCain, PragerU, the
PragerU one, that's actually pretty surprising because they're deeply religious fundamentalists. I guess.
His TV chiming in to congratulate him.
And even Blaze, Glenn Beck of all people, gave congratulations to him. I bet your daddy Crowder's going to be very angry about that Glenn Beck.
He might dress up as a woman and abuse.
Oh, yep. And also, funny enough, after Mike did another video on this because I don't think he covered it here, but sometime after this, Rubin went on the Blaze and talked to Glenn Beck about this, and oh boy, Glenn Beck made a fool of himself as he always does, comparing gays to alcoholism and all that, the old trope there. Oh boy. And Rubin just sat there and took it.
But overall, by and large,
remind me a lot of Blair White, for God's sake.
Overwhelmingly, most people condemned this and were disgusted by it, or they thought that, him choosing to not adopt was also something that was bad. So, yeah. Dave, I'd love to hear an update on who you believe is still more tolerant. Are you still going to argue that right-wingers are more tolerant than the left and liberals? This is your fan base, Dave. These are people who know you, who followed you for years, and yet they're saying that you're disgusting. They're calling you a human trafficker and a child abuser, Dave. And this comes at a happy time in your life. But they're not happy for you. They think that you're disgusting. They think that you shouldn't even be married, let alone have children. So, I mean, look, nobody deserves homophobia, but if I had to pick one person, Dave Rubin is probably deserving of it, at least a little bit, right? Because what he has done is so disgusting. He has hurt the gay community by trying to legitimize homophobia, by trying to argue that they're actually tolerant He should have challenged their homophobic beliefs, but instead, he doesn't.
But then the money will go away.
Gives Trump Jr. permission to call him the F-slur. He time and again will do apologia for conservatives and pretend as if it's actually the left who's intolerant. No, Dave. Who's the intolerant one now? I really want to know. Give us an update, Dave. Do you still stand by what you said in that PragerU video, which you were probably paid for? Do you still stand by that after your entire fan base is calling you
And I think I did a video on that one too, years ago.
As a gay man myself, there's no amount of money I would sell out for to do that to myself, to subject myself to homophobic abuse for the foreseeable future, for as long as you want to have a career, to subject my husband to that. And children to that. I mean, I'd never want to have children, but if I did want to have kids, my audience, since they're not psychopathic homophobes, would be happy for me. But your audience is not happy for you, Dave, because they hate you. You're useful to them insofar as you tell them that it's perfectly acceptable for them to feel homophobia. You're useful to them insofar as you validate their beliefs when they say that we should take away rights from the LGBTQ plus community. But when it comes to you sharing your life with them, they don't care. They don't want to hear about it. If it's out of sight, out of mind, that's fine. But when you start sharing things like this, that's when you've gone too far. That's when they just can't accept this, Dave. So it's really pathetic and sad that he doesn't just come out and renounce his conservative fan base or renounce everything that he said.
More important.
But I mean, apparently to him, he just values the money that he gets shilling for right-wingers. I don't know how he lives with himself. I genuinely could not do this. I couldn't do it. Money to me is not that important. I'd rather have my dignity. I'd rather surround myself with people who actually think that I'm equal to them. I'm a normal human being just like they are. But not Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin thinks, you know what? I want a mansion. I want a luxury car, so I'm going to shill for them. I'm going to say what they want. I'm going to LARP as a conservative and be the token gay conservative, be the useful idiot, because that's what makes me happy. Money. Now, it may make me feel like shit when I see these responses, but I'll just comfort myself with money. I know this is probably mean, but I hope he reads the comments, and I hope it hurts his feelings. I hope that he genuinely reflects what he has done,
he honestly cares,
not just to himself, but to the gay community overall.
He doesn't have the ability to do that. He doesn't even have a brain.
Yeah.
It's just he is such a bad person, such a gross person, that I can't feel bad for him at all. Again, it's like, you vote for the leopards eating my face party, and then you act surprised when leopards eat your face. You asked for this. You made your bed, now lie in it. Now, because there's so much evidence with Dave Rubin that conservatives are not actually the tolerant ones, I've decided to put together a mini documentary to kind of demonstrate how sad and pathetic Dave Rubin's life is. So I will leave you with this.
Oh boy.
I can tell you that in the last few years of my political evolution, I've consistently found conservatives to be tolerant and open-minded. Don't take my word for it, though. Test it out for yourself. Go talk to some.
I have talked to some. It's a mixed bag, but they're not all tolerant as you think, especially when it comes to you being gay.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Dice's tweet. And Milo saying you should be executed. Tweet after tweet after tweet. So much for being tolerant and open-minded.
You know what I found out? The right, much more than the left, believes in the notion of live and let live. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the true definition of tolerance.
No.
Will you bake Rubin a wedding cake? The answer is no.
Dave Rubin is gay?
Oh, Tommy Sotomayor! Yes! The Sotomayor strikes again! Oh!
Yes. Oh! We watched this in the very first episode.
Oh! And if you... Oh, and... Sodomizer, if you're still triggered by Rubin being gay, how about this to remind you? Glanderson Boover! Glanderson Boover!
I was in his presence!
Oh,
I didn't know!
He's so triggered!
Sit down with him!
God, that's 5 years old. It's still as hysterical as ever.
That's literally Dave laughing right there. That was So, yeah, Dave, we do not like you on the left because you're an idiot that spews dumb crap and you betrayed us, but we don't care that you're gay, we don't care that you're married, and we don't care about you having kids. It doesn't matter to us. But the right, they don't like it and never will. So stop saying that they are the tolerant ones. It's us that are, you idiot. Ah, that was a good laugh. Alright, so on to the next topic. So anyways, we talked about this a while ago. Biden made a Supreme Court pick, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's really good. And of course, she's going through the nomination process and going through all the Senate questions and all that. And of course, the right, as always, are being a whiny bunch of babies, as always, including Lindsey Graham actually rage quitting one of the things too. It was so funny. Kyle did a really good video on this, but I think Mike covered more of the funnier ones. So I think we should go watch the funnier ones to die laughing too.
Well, the confirmation hearings for Joe Biden's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, have begun today, and Republicans have asked incredibly meaningful and substantive questions. They've acted respectful, and everything has largely gone along quite smoothly. I'm obviously kidding. Republicans have already made fools of themselves. They're acting like imbeciles, and they're asking the dumbest questions imaginable, and this is day one. So, for example, Marsha Blackburn is asking her about critical race theory, because, of course, but take a look at how she asks this question.
You have praised the 1619 Project, which argues the U.S. is a fundamentally racist country, and you have made clear that you believe judges must consider critical race theory when deciding how to sentence criminal defendants. Is it your personal hidden agenda to incorporate critical race theory into our legal system?
Now, before we get to her, yeah, the 1619 Project was largely not really good, but you guys are the same people that defend the 1776 Project, which was full of historical inaccuracies.
Yeah.
These are answers that the American people need to know.
Not me, because I know it's what your crime about is full of shit. It's only what you and your bubble care about.
Questions, Marsha. These are questions the American people need answers to, and we don't, actually, because that's not a real question. That's not what you ask somebody who's a nominee to be on the Supreme Court. That's stupid. And if she had a hidden agenda, would it be hidden if she actually told you about this while it's being broadcasted? I mean, why would she reveal that she had a hidden agenda if she actually had a hidden agenda? Are you stupid? I mean, I feel like if I were Ketanji Brown Jackson, it would be very difficult to bite my tongue. I get that this is par for the course for Republicans. They're going to ask idiotic questions, but I feel like one of these days, one of these nominees is just going to ask, are you stupid? Are you fucking stupid? Are you really asking me this question? If I have a hidden agenda for CRT, how's that going to work if I'm a Supreme Court justice? Am I going to force my colleagues on the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution exactly as I do? Am I going to force...
yeah, according to conservatives, liberals do have that power. You know that.
Them to view the law through the lens of critical race theory? Is that really what you're asking me, Senator? I mean, at some point, they're going to snap. Somebody's got to snap. Wow, they're so stupid. Republicans are incredibly stupid. Their brains are just smooth. If you sawed open Marsha Blackburn's skull, it would be as smooth as butter. It's unbelievable.
No, Mike, there would be nothing in there in the first place other than fear.
Now, Lindsey Graham decided to chime in and make it very, very clear that he is not racist. Why would he bring this up? Well, in case Democrats invoke identity politics and accuse him or Republicans of being racist for asking questions.
And for all of you who don't know, from what I've seen, it's very obvious they're trying to bait her into doing the stereotypical black woman trope about being angry all the time. It is so blatantly obvious. They're trying to bait her into it. And she's not buying it, so cope more.
That are too tough. He's just making it clear, folks. He's not racist.
Yeah, he didn't make the cut. Well-lived life just completely ruined. So if you're Hispanic or African-American conservative, it's about your philosophy. Now it's going to be about the historic nature of the pick. It's going to be about your philosophy.
Which I actually agree somewhat. A lot of people on the left are obsessed with her being the first black woman to the Supreme Court she's nominated. It's not that important. What matters is her philosophy. But you guys also do it at the same time, so don't act like you're fucking hypocrites, because you are.
The bottom line here is when it is about philosophy, when it's somebody of color on our side, it's about we're all racist if we ask hard questions. It's not going to fly with us. We're used to it by now, at least I am.
Yet you keep trying to do the black woman angry trope during this entire thing, so what else is to say about it?
You need to ask her about her record as a district court judge. You should. I hope you do. And
the problem is your questions are stupid and
very fair game.
Okay. Nobody asked, but okay. Thank you. Are you really going to ask her questions about her judicial philosophy? Are you seriously considering voting for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson? Is that really the case, Lindsey Graham? Nobody believes you. Why even pretend? Why grandstand about how not racist you are when we know you're not seriously considering voting for her? And if this isn't about identity politics or racism, just fucking ask her questions about her judicial philosophy. They are incapable of acting like adults for just 5 minutes. They are so fucking stupid. Just ask her the questions about her judicial philosophy then, if this is really what it's about. But it's not about that for you. You're preemptively invoking identity politics to deflect against accusations of racism when has anyone actually accused you of that? Is anybody saying you can't ask her questions that are serious and tough because she's black? I don't understand why you went on this grandstanding rant. I mean, I do. I get it because you're stupid, but it's just, you think that he'd have some level of self-awareness to where he'd think, I don't need to bring this up, right? Nobody's accusing me of racism. Maybe I don't bring this up, but of course he is. Of course he is. Insufferable. Now Ted Cruz is going to chime in by plugging his podcast and by basically complaining that she's not going to be treated as poorly as Brett Kavanaugh. So that's weird, but let's listen to what he has to say.
This will not be the kind of character smear that sadly our Democratic colleagues have gotten very good at.
Yes, because pointing out that your last Supreme Court nominee had a pretty well-documented history of sexual assault and allegations and stuff like that when they were in college, we can't bring that up at all.
No.
And it's important to note, a couple of years ago I was doing a weekly podcast.
Now, of course, I didn't like when they kept from him where they kept only talking about that. Even if none of that was true, he's a far-right piece of shit. He should never be on the Supreme Court, period. And that's what they should have focused more on.
Podcast, and I was on with a noted liberal intellectual. No one is going to inquire into your teenage dating habits.
Unless you think it's politically
convenient.
Severity,
do you like beer? But that's not to say this hearing should be non-substantive.
It is non-substantive because you guys ask stupid questions.
I'll tell you what. In the event she's credibly accused of rape, Ted Cruz, and those questions are relevant, I think it'd be a good idea to bring it up.
Yes.
Yeah. But I'll be sure to check out the podcast. Because who wouldn't want to listen to Ted Cruz talk for an extended period of time? I just feel like if you don't hate Republicans with every fiber of your being, you're not a real American. It's un-American to not hate Republicans. How can you watch that and think, these are reasonable people. These are adults. They're serious people. They care about politics. They care about America. How can you watch that and have that be the takeaway? They're so insufferable because they're so stupid. They're so...
Here's the problem, though, Mike, because likewise, they think the same for us. They think you are insufferable.
Unserious in every single thing that they say. And
they think the left is insufferable and not serious. So it's just mutual dislike.
Every word that comes out of their mouths is so disingenuous, it's almost intolerable. But yet, this is one of two major political parties in the United States and not a laughingstock. I mean, parties like this, with individuals who behave in this fringe way, are usually very fringe political parties throughout Europe. I mean, that's starting to change, right? But I mean, this is just the norm. This is conservatives in America. They're that stupid, openly so, and proudly so. I just... I don't know why I'm pretending or insinuating that I'm surprised, because this is exactly what I expected, and this is only day one. So I expect these confirmation hearings to be a complete shit show. But I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into what's happening in case you're not paying close attention, because there's a lot going on in the world, right? But this is what we can expect, and it's only day one, so it'll only get worse. And yeah, imagine if Judge Clarence Thomas dies. He was admitted to the hospital with flu-like symptoms. So imagine if he dies. Imagine the confirmation hearings for that replacement. How big of a shit show that would be. This is how they're acting, knowing that if she is indeed confirmed, conservatives will still have a supermajority on the Supreme Court. But imagine a situation where Thomas is dead and Joe Biden is having to nominate his replacement. Imagine how
That's if he even died right now. I'm sure they would have to deal with her first, and that's if Biden would have enough time to do a second one, because you know how long it takes to do this. This has like been going for like at least a month now, for crying out loud.
Saying they'd be acting. It's just, Republicans are just, they're...
And of course, we must add that she still needs to get the majority of the Senate, which with Manchin Cinema, that's not a guarantee.
Manchin Cinema are Republicans, and they're evil.
So, like I said, guys, it's not even guaranteed that she would even get this nomination for all we know yet.
They're children. They are children, both in their behavior and level of critical thinking skills. So yeah, I'll keep you updated. I don't really plan on following this super closely, but if there is a moment that stands out to me, or overt stupidity, I think that instances like that are worth highlighting, but nonetheless, Republicans doing what we expect them to do, acting like complete fucking morons.
And of course, as we've mentioned, there have been a whole bunch of stuff since this video came out. Like we said about Lindsey Graham actually having a rage quit moment and leaving because he got mad, which was funny. I think it was Ted Cruz or someone actually brought up that supposedly she was in a case involving child porn, and she charged the defendant lower than what is like recommended or something like that, and they had Meltdown over it, only for it to turn out that that's the normal procedure when it comes to stuff like that. So what's so angering about that? And they had a meltdown about her calling in a case 2 George Bush and what was it, Rumsfeld a war criminal, which is based, because they are, and other dumb stuff like that. So keep crying more, conservatives. All you do is cry and moan about everything. And we must do everything possible to make sure Cinema and Manchin fall in line and vote for her, so we'll get her.
Sounds extremely hard to make sure that enforce them to.
Alright, so now on to the next one, and it's actually two of the same things involving Stuart Varney, who is a British-American retard who's on Fox, and oh god, he is like one of the most insufferable people on there. But he actually had a moment of being somewhat like a journalist should be doing, as he actually talked to Trump, and he actually grilled him on the big lie. So let's see Kyle's video on it.
Stuart Varney grilled Trump here on the stolen election lies. You could tell he's frustrated. You could tell he's exasperated. You could tell he's just like, move on, dog, move on, move on, move on. You're only hurting yourself. Let's watch and then I'll react.
At CPAC, your speech was banned from YouTube. Second year in a row that's happened. What can you do about that? Well, what can you do?
I talked about a rigged election, which it was 100% rigged. I mean, look at what happened in Wisconsin. Look at what's happening in Georgia. All the things they're finding, truth to vote. Look at all the hundreds of thousands of votes. So they don't like it, and they ban it. And of course, Fox is afraid.
They're wrong to ban it too, but you're still wrong
to put it on. But
well, wait a second.
Maybe I get through it.
Wait a second. If we go into 2022, the elections, and 2024, and you're still looking back to the election of 2020 and saying that you really won, I don't think that's very good for you or the Republican Party. You want to comment on that?
Well, I actually think it is good for me, and I think if we don't put out all of the crooked things, and we know what they are, that you won't win in 22 and you won't win in 24. If we don't get to it, so I think it's the opposite actually, and I talk nothing about. Nobody talks more about the future.
You think that 2022? You think that 2022 and 2024 are all about the 2020 election? Really?
No. I think for us to win the election, we have to know how they cheated, because otherwise they'll cheat again, and we do know how they cheated. And Republicans and Democrats should, but they won't. Republicans have to do something about it, or they're going to be very disappointed. And nobody talks more about the future than I do. But you have to learn from history also, and you can't let it happen again, Stuart.
Trump is too dense to understand that Stuart Varney is literally trying to help him. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. So let's go through that. Now, I will say the whole, his CPAC speech being banned, I'm totally against that. I mean, you can't just... So the rigged election conspiracy theory, it is a conspiracy theory. It's totally false. I'll get to that in a second and give you more specifics on it. You guys have heard me give the specifics before. But you still shouldn't ban it. If you're going to ban that, okay, well then the 9/11 conspiracies have to go. Probably the Sandy Hook one obviously gets you booted. But then what about the JFK conspiracy, which a lot of intelligent people who have looked at the evidence have said it wasn't just a lone gunman, it wasn't just Lee Harvey Oswald. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there, and then it's just it's slippery slope of all these different. What are you going to do? Just only the official correct position.
The CIA was planning to get JFK, but Lee Harvey Oswald got him first.
Is allowed. It's correct, by the way. I put that in quotes. It just, you can't do it. You can't have a ministry of truth. You can't, because who's going to fact check the fact checkers? People have their own biases. You got to just let it be, man. You got to just let it be. And they're not doing that. So I disagree on that front. Now, having said that, yes, the rigged election stuff is easily disproven. It wasn't even difficult. They tried in real time. It's not like now, after the fact, they're like, hey, I think it's rigged, and maybe we should have done something to try to prove that. They tried to prove it over and over. There were 60-plus court cases, and Trump lost almost every single one of them. And by the way, they lost. It's not like, oh, these are all Democrat judges. Some of the judges were Republican-appointed judges by George W. Bush. Some of them were Trump-appointed judges, and they were like, you don't have a case here, dog. You lost. www.getoverit.net. What are you doing? What are you doing? And then, of course, the Arizona audit is the best example of this. The Trump people were convinced if you audit the vote in Arizona, Trump is going to win. And then what happened? Not only did Trump not win, Biden won by more votes than he won by on Election Day.
And here's the thing. And here's the thing. Even if you did somehow, even if it flipped and Trump won Arizona, he still would have lost. Biden would have still had the electoral win.
Yeah.
And everybody who thinks, because one of the main reasons why people think, hey, maybe this is unfair and it's rigged, is because the way the voting happened on Election Day, you had Donald Trump was up for a very long time. He was up for a very long time. So a lot of people thought, oh, he's definitely going to win. He looks like he has a giant lead right now at the time where most people went to sleep on Election Day. Now, here's the problem with that. You had the votes that were counted on Election Day first in most of the states were from the Election Day. It's been proven historically Republicans like to vote in person more on Election Day. So those votes are going to be more biased in favor of the Republicans, the ones that are from Election Day and then counted immediately. So it's going to be more biased. It was called the Red Mirage was the scenario. And then as soon as you count all of the mail-in ballots, the mail-in ballots historically lean very Democratic. And so if they counted on the day first, and then they count the mail-in ones after, well, what happens is it looks like the Republicans are leading by a lot, and then the Democrats charge back because most of the mail-in...
And also doesn't help that the Republicans on purpose made the law so that the mail-in ballots could not be checked on until sometime after the election to make the Red Mirage more likely to happen. There was one state, however, that did not happen. That was Florida. Florida was allowed to do their mail-in ballots the same time as vote-in. So that's why Florida stuff was done.
Speaking of Arizona, that was actually the one state that, thanks to mail-in ballots, Trump nearly took back from Biden.
Yeah. So, yeah, mail-in ballots actually help Republicans in a lot of ways. Like Florida, too, it made it more obvious that they won from the start instead of waiting later. So, the Red Mirage is a lot of it the fault of conservatives, as always.
Are for Democrats. Now, you might say, well, after the fact now, Kyle, you're giving this explanation, and that's not, that seems like a rationalization for what happened, because Trump really was the one who won. Wrong. Go back and watch. I was on Joe Rogan's podcast. We did an Election Day special. It was myself, Joe Rogan, and Tim Dillon. before any of the votes were counted, I said in no uncertain terms, here's how it's likely to go down. You will have the Republicans look like they're up by a lot from the voting on Election Day. And then as soon as they count the mail-ins, the Democrats will surge ahead.
And that's exactly what happened. And believe it or not, a lot of leftists didn't actually knew that. I remember Zoomer Nation and Vosh and them had a giant meltdown when Trump was winning on election night first. Like, how was this happening? All the polls said Biden's going to win.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why if you don't shit on Kyle all the time and actually watch other things like about the Red Mirage, maybe you would have known about it, you idiots.
That's exactly what happened. I said it beforehand. And guys, I'm not some sort of super genius here. I just read all the relevant material on the election. So this is all in front of, it's all obvious.
It was all pretty much planned from the start. The Republicans knew that the Red Mirage would make it more likely to be like, see, the election was stolen from us. That's why they wouldn't let in those states to let them do the mail-in ballots from the start, just like they would let them do in Florida. So then when the Red Mirage would be like, see, it's rigged.
Yes, if you go back and you're willing to be open-minded and you're willing to evaluate things fairly, you're going to come to that conclusion. So it's not true. You lost the election. Get over it. You lost, you lost, you lost. And Varney's pressing him, but again, the only reason he's pressing him is for this very simple reason. He knows it's not good for Trump and it's not good for Republicans, and it makes it less likely they win the more he talks about it. And I love how Trump, when really put in a corner, he's like, Stuart, nobody talks more about the future than I do. As every speech he gives, he can't help but bring up rigged election, talking about the past. Nobody talks more about the future than I do, Stuart. Nobody does. Nobody does. Stuart Varney knows it's not good for you, it's not good for Republicans. We covered a poll on this exact issue. You know what percentage of Republicans want Republican politicians and candidates to talk about the 2020 election? 15%.
Oh,
15.
shit.
If it's 15% among Republicans, what the hell do you think it is among Democrats? Probably 0. What do you think it is among independents? Probably 7%. So nobody wants to talk about this. People care about the economy and jobs and healthcare and, now the potential for nuclear war.
Yeah.
This is what people care about, and he can't help himself. So look, Trump's Achilles heel is that he can easily self-destruct by not being able to get out of his own head. People don't, maybe some of you remember this, but going all the way back to 2016, the reason why Trump was really able to break through and destroy the Republicans in the primary and then eventually win the election is because he had much more of the pseudo-populism and finger on the pulse enough to bullshit to people to tell them what they wanted to hear. So the 2016 Trump candidacy was the stronger of all of them. Then in 2020, he sort of lost sight of that, and it became more ego-driven. He sounded more like a Fox News grandpa.
Also, he did not live up to his populism at words that he said he was going to do, and then, of course, COVID.
He had lost to pseudo-populism after governing for 4 years like a standard establishment Republican. And then now, he's downgraded even again. I even think the 2020 version of campaign of Trump, when he was campaigning, was better than this current version. And so even though he's leading in every poll in the Republican primary and he's tied with Biden, he could self-destruct by only, talking about this nonstop, focusing on this nonstop, because you're not going to move people on it, dog. You've been trying relentlessly. And only 15% of even Republicans say, yeah, talk about that. So I think Stuart Varney really is just trying to help him when he's like, dog, shut the fuck up. Move on. Get over it. Let's talk about, policy. So anyway, in a weird way, I guess, you should be rooting for Trump to keep talking about this because that is the thing that's guaranteed to hurt him the most. Hey, y'all, do me a favor.
Because he also wants to try to do January 6th again and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys say about Varney actually apparently having a little bit of a brain for a moment?
Well, I think it's more that he's seeing the writing on the wall that the Republicans are going to lose if they keep bringing this up. So he's trying to push them away on some other culture war issues.
And there actually have been polls a little bit recently from... Have you ever heard the YouTube channel, I think it was Let's Talk Politics or Let's Talk Elections? It's a YouTuber who does election coverage and stuff like that for years. Supposedly, recently, the Republicans have lost a little bit of momentum in their lead for the 2022 primaries. I mean, the general midterms. So it looks like right now they might not get as big of a win as they originally thought they were going to do. So, Trump, if you're the reason, please keep opening your mouth so hopefully you have no chance to win either. Alright, now here is something that is a good reason why Trump is not in office right now during the Russo-Ukraine war. Because this is insane.
Donald Trump went on Stuart Varney's show, I think on Fox Business or Fox News. I think it's Fox Business. And he had so many moments that went viral. So the first one that I want to show you here, he's asked very specifically, and actually credit to Stuart Varney on this. I never thought I'd say those words in my life because he's generally a hideous host. He's terrible. But he's asked in a very straightforward way, what would you do differently from Joe Biden with this Russian war on Ukraine? What would you do differently? Give me specifics. Give me specifics. He actually presses him a number of times on it. He doesn't answer because he doesn't have an answer, but then finally at the end, he says something that he would do differently, and holy cow, is it bad.
To watch.
There's this discussion about whether we should send jets, MiG jets, to help the Ukrainian Air Force. Would you send in that kind of help?
Well, maybe even more, to be honest with you. And I'm the one
what,
that would
Mr.
have
President?
stayed out.
Like
I'm the one that would have stayed out. Let me just explain that Putin is saying things like, don't you dare send anything in. In the meantime, he's killing thousands and thousands of people. So he's acting like we're an aggressor. If we send in some old 44-year-old plane that probably gets shot out of the sky pretty quickly, and he's acting like we're terrible people if we do that. But he's killing tens of thousands of people, far more than they're reporting. You don't knock down those buildings and blow up those buildings and they say 2 people were injured slightly. And thousands of people are being killed. And when he says, don't you dare do that, and we all say, oh, he said don't do it, we don't want to start. The fact is that what he's doing is a human tragedy. There's not been anything like this, in a sense, maybe ever, but certainly since World War II when you look at it, but there's never been anything like this.
So what do you do now? If you said you'd maybe do more than just send in the MiG jets, all right? What more?
What I would do is we have tremendous military capability. And what we can do without planes, to be honest with you, without 44-year-old jets, what we can do is enormous. And we should be doing it. And we should be helping them to survive. And they're doing an amazing job. But, you know, I was the one that sent in the javelins. I mean, everyone refuses to acknowledge that. And I took a lot of heat. And I sent it in very openly and glowingly, and they said Obama sent blankets and Trump sent javelins. Well, nobody knew how well those javelins would do and how well they. But those javelins that knocked out all the tanks, those were sent by me, and we sent them in large numbers too. I didn't even realize at the time when it.
Still wrong of you to do that at the time, Trump.
Sent them. I said, man, you know, that's a lot of stuff we're sending, but let's do it. Let them have a chance. Who would have thought that they would have been so powerful, the way they protected that country, but they need other kinds of help. But I listened to him constantly using the N-word. That's the N-word. And he's constantly using it, the nuclear word. And we never talk, we say, oh, he's a nuclear power. But we're a greater nuclear power. We have the greatest submarines in the world, most powerful machines ever built. Most powerful, and they got built under me. Most powerful machines ever built, and nobody knows where they are. And you should say, look, you mentioned that word one more time, we're going to send them over, and we'll be coasting back and forth up and down your coast.
Yeah, that is...
Honestly,
would start World War III.
Not gonna lie, though, I wouldn't be surprised if we already do that somewhat by now, like in the Arctic.
A terrible idea.
Yes, it is.
That's a horrendous idea. He's saying, send our nuclear submarines to Russia. That's what he's saying. So this is actually, as we talk about Trump, this was actually my concern all along. If he was still in office right now, my concern is not like a lot of the resistance liberals who are like, oh, he's Vladimir Putin's puppet, so he's going to let him do whatever he wants to do and take Ukraine and like support it, and he's going to pull out of NATO. This is like, you know, the silly line, which is Russiagate brainworms. The thing that
Careful,
concerned me
Kyle,
was actually the exact opposite,
Meltdown.
which is because you have this media environment saying that Trump is Putin's buddy and he's his puppet, and Putin owns Trump and all that stuff, that Trump will overreact in the other direction to try to prove to people, see, I'm not his puppet. I'm actually being tougher than anybody has ever been, ever. And this is what he's talking about here. Now, he did point out, and it's true, Trump did arm Ukraine, and unfortunately, a lot of those weapons went to the Azov Battalion, went to neo-Nazis on the ground, and that's why we were against that. I was against that policy, and I was screaming about it at the top of my lungs. Now, of course, he had that phone call with Zelensky where he was basically like, look, I'm going to withhold some of this aid unless and until you, investigate Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and give me some dirt on them. So he was trying to take, mix in personal politics with actual international politics, which is totally unacceptable, and you can't do that. But having said that, he did arm them. Even before that phone call, he had armed them a lot. And that was a policy Obama didn't do because Obama didn't want to escalate with Russia. Trump was escalating with Russia like nobody's business. There were drills going on Russia's border under Donald Trump. He also axed the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and wouldn't allow it, saying, no, Russia and Germany can't have a pipeline deal because we want Germany to take our oil and gas.
And because of Russia's invasion, now that actually happened already.
And so, in many ways, he was very hawkish on that question. What we're seeing here is, if he was in office, especially if the argument, all these arguments of the media saying, do a no-fly zone, be more aggressive, be more hawkish, do this, do that, Trump would not be able to resist that pressure. And in fact, he says it, I'd go above and beyond. I'd be sending the nuclear submarines to Russia right now. That's what scares me. And by the way, further evidence for this being the real problem with Trump is, remember what happened with North Korea. Remember what happened with North Korea? How he would, very openly threaten nuclear war on Twitter against North Korea. So now, eventually, there were actually talks between us and North Korea, which is much better than escalating tensions. But when there was the escalating tensions, God damn it, that was terrifying. And I wouldn't want him as president right now because he's more erratic, he's more reflexive and impulsive. And my guess is he would try to do anything and everything to try to prove to everybody, I'm not Putin's puppet, I'm not Putin's puppet, send the nuclear submarines. And
I'm going to say this right now, too. Hypothetically, if this war was still going until 2024, Biden gets the runs again, unfortunately, and even more unfortunately, wins the nomination, and Trump actually, if it's a rematch from 2020, even though it literally would have no effect whatsoever since I'm in a deep blue state, I might have to vote for Biden just because of this reason. Because, yeah, we can't have Trump in this situation. He is too insane. We need, even someone that's brain dead like Biden, he is doing as good of a job as possible in this situation, and we know Trump would cause death around the world if he was in power right now.
Do you really want that kind of a standoff? Where if now there's a 3% chance of nuclear war that we're talking about, Donald Trump makes it like a 20% chance or a 17% chance or whatever it might be. That was always my fear with him. That was always my fear, is that he is too hawkish and he is too impulsive. And he would, unfortunately, get us closer to that brink. So it's the opposite of what everybody else is saying. Oh, he's going to pull out of NATO and he's going to be too much of a bitch. And no, that's not the problem. And this is why the way in which you criticize Trump is so important. It's so important to be accurate in your criticism. Because the stakes are as high as anybody can imagine. It's nuclear war. He's saying, I would send nuclear submarines to Russia. Now, how does Vladimir Putin react to that? What would he do in reaction to that?
Fucking don't even want to think of probably fire his nukes into the submarines themselves.
About it. You don't even want to think about it. So now, of course, the other part of this is to go to the beginning. Trump's asked, what would you do differently than what Biden's doing? And then they're talking about maybe sending the MiGs. And Trump says, I would send more. And Varney's like, okay, what would you send? And Trump's answer is, he says, we have a tremendous military, tremendous military capability, enormous. Okay, tremendous, enormous, gargantuan, whatever word you want to throw in there. What more would you do? I sent in the javelins very openly and glowingly. What? Yeah, I didn't just send them in. I sent them in openly and glowingly. And then, of course, we get Putin is constantly using the N-word. He says the N-word all the time. He loves saying the N-word. And I mean nuclear when I say that.
That is so weird.
The argument from Trump is effectively, Putin threatens nuclear war, so we should too. How about no? So he couldn't really differentiate himself from Biden, because most of the stuff Biden is doing is, I think, what almost any U.S. president would do. But he's saying the ways in which I would go above and beyond are objectively worse. Threaten nuclear war and send our nuclear submarines to Russia right now. That is not okay. That is not okay. How Biden is handling it is better, although I still have criticisms of Biden, of course. The collective punishment angle is inexcusable to me. You guys know my stance on this. I would do every sanction imaginable against Putin, against the oligarchs, against the military. But the second you do any sort of collective punishment sanctions, which try to implode the entire Russian economy and hurt regular Russians, I'm out. I don't want to have...
Unfortunately, Kyle, we kind of really don't have much of a choice in that matter, sadly, because we need them to stop.
Russia's a fascist state, so the fascist dictator Vladimir Putin.
And we can't...
Fortunately, you sanction one person, everyone suffers in that bloody country.
And we can't, go to war or anything like that, so they have to do something to stop the invasion. And if, unfortunately, I hate to say it, if the population sanction that bad that they're suffering, you gotta hope that they rise up and do an internal coup or something to get rid of them and stop this war. We have to do something to get this war to stop now.
Have anything to do with ruining somebody's life who had nothing to do with what happened here. And if anything, you have so many people, thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands of people, protesting the war in the streets in an authoritarian country and getting arrested. Those are heroes. And now what you're doing is enacting policy that says to them, I don't want you to be able to take money out of the bank. I don't want you to know where your next meal is coming from. I want to destroy your savings, etc., etc.
But you can also use those sanctions as fuel to make them rise up even more at the same time.
That I'm not okay with. But what Biden is doing is basically every sanction imaginable while trying to be clear in his rhetoric. We don't want war with Russia. We're not going to go to war with Russia. We're ruling out a no-fly zone. We're ruling out a hot war. Yada, yada.
Yeah,
so
that's what Biden's been doing. That's
man.
Good.
And this is the guy who's probably the favorite to be the next president of the U.S. It's either Biden or Trump who's the favorite to be the next president of the U.S. Because Trump right now is basically tied in the polls with Biden. And everybody else is nowhere to be seen. So, not good, man. Not good. Imagine this guy gets back in there. I think he's the last. You want a steady hand during a crisis. And he is the exact opposite of a steady hand. Ever since Adpocalypse.
Yep. So, we gotta say about Trump being an idiot, as always.
It's no surprise. I mean, he loves war and he loves being an idiot. So... it really isn't surprising.
And also, to all of you, Russia Gators, shut the fuck up. You've been destroyed. Go away. So...
off forever.
Yeah, so... And yeah. You know it's pretty bad when I might have to consider maybe voting for Biden, even in a state that it won't matter in, because Trump is that bad on this issue that there's no way around. He could kill us all if he gets in power, if this war still goes on till then. So that's why we need to get the war to end as soon as possible. Alright now? So, down to the final one. So now we can actually laugh again for once. So, oh my god. Let's see what Republicans now are still crying about interracial marriages being banned and they support it. And by the way, before I begin this video from Kyle, just so you all know... Stop, Kyle. There actually was polls done about this 10 years ago in Republican primary states. There were a bunch of states in the South that even a plurality of Republicans still supported banning interracial marriage. Back in 2011 and 12. 10 years ago, Republicans supported banning gay marriage by a plurality. Just think about that. That's insane.
There's a Republican senator by the name of Mike Braun. And he was asked a question by some of the local papers. Hey man, what do you think about this abortion case that the Supreme Court is hearing? There's Roe versus Wade is definitely on the ropes. And you have a lot of states that are really going hard with this anti-abortion legislation, trying to ban it sooner and sooner.
Yeah, a lot of states have done that now just in the last few days.
It is kind of effectively banned already with these what's called TRAP laws, Targeted Restriction of Abortion Procedure, that's what it stands for. And what they do is, for those of you who don't know, I'll just catch everybody up on this. What they do is, they'll have these really onerous regulations on abortion providers specifically. So they'll write these laws. The ceiling needs to be 15 feet high, and you need the vents to be this big, and all these things. And then the abortion providers look around and they're like, well, our ceilings aren't that high, and our vents aren't that big. And it seems like you just crafted this legislation and this regulation just to regulate us out of existence, so we have to shut down immediately because we can't meet your onerous regulation. That's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what happens. Which is why you have so many states that have like one abortion clinic, and again, legislation banning it sooner and sooner. I mean, there's legislation on the books and legislation that has passed in various states that is literally just unconstitutional under Roe versus Wade. So like we have the precedent has been set, and they're just ignoring the precedent. They're just like, we don't care that it's you're saying we can't do this within the state, we're going to do it anyway. So Mike Braun's asked about this new case in front of the Supreme Court involving abortion. And his answer is basically, look, you got to leave it up to the states. I'm a states' rights guy. So, New York wants to ban abortion, or excuse me, New York wants to allow abortion, fine. California does, fine. But Mississippi doesn't want to, you can't force them to do it. Leave it up to the states, leave it up to the states, leave it up to the states. Now, he tries to hold by that principle when asked a phenomenal follow-up question by journalists here. And he shoves his foot directly in his mouth. Watch.
So you would be okay with the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage to the states?
Yes, I think that that's something that if you're not wanting the Supreme Court to weigh in on issues like that, you're not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. I think that's hypocritical.
So I remember
about Griswold versus Connecticut.
Well, you can list a whole host of issues. When it comes down to whatever they are, I'm going to say that they're not going to all make you happy within a given state, but that we're better off having states manifest their points of view rather than homogenizing it across the country as Roe versus Wade did.
That's amazing. He's saying interracial marriage shouldn't be the law of the land federally, nationally. There shouldn't be a protection for interracial marriage.
Help black people.
For
black people existing shouldn't be the law of the land.
Yep.
The entire country. That's what he's saying. Leave it up to the states. Let the states decide. Mississippi wants to ban it, let them ban it. This is the argument he's making. This is the argument he's making. Forgive me for being naive, for thinking that by the year 2022, people would file this one under the duh category. Like, of course, it should be protected federally. No. He says no, because states' rights. And by the way, this is actually a great history lesson, too. Because what a lot of people don't realize, if you have just a cursory understanding of politics, is that a lot of the racial politics in this country, they were masked under the guise of, this isn't about race, it's just about states' rights. So when this argument was trotted out previously was during segregation, where the argument coming from southern states that wanted to maintain segregation, the argument was not, we love segregation, we are pro-segregation because we are racist and want black people to be second-class citizens. That's not the argument they made. They dressed it up. They put a thin veneer of respectability over it and said, this has nothing to do with race. This has to do about states' rights. So we want to have our own sovereignty in our respective states. And the federal, big, bad, mean federal government is trying to force other values on us when we believe in the freedom within our own state to make our own decisions. Now, what they meant is, we want to have the freedom to take away the freedom of black people. We want to have the freedom to restrict liberty within our state. That's the reality of what they were asking for. But they didn't admit that. And it's a good crash course in the way a lot of odious ideas are implemented. It's always implemented under the guise of something that sounds relatively benign and sanitized and neutral. So do you support...
And that was also the argument about the Southern strategy used too.
Yeah. Federal government having the last say, or do you support the states to decide with their own little, laboratories of democracy? Well, if you frame it like that, some people are going to say, I think the state should decide because I want politics to be more localized. But if you explain what the real issue is underlying it, then people go, whoa, I don't want to ban interracial marriage. What are you, fucking crazy? So this is what he's saying. He's like, look, man, values don't align in a lot of the blue states and the red states, so let the red states do whatever they want to do, and if they want to ban interracial marriage, well, that's their prerogative. We got to be consistent. We can't be hypocritical. So I think abortion should be left to the states. Why shouldn't interracial marriage be left to the states? amazing. Now, of course, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. I think it was Loving versus Virginia was the Supreme Court case. It was, I think, 1967. And the ruling from the Supreme Court was under the 14th Amendment, you have equal protection and due process, and it would violate the 14th Amendment for states to ban interracial marriage. And, everybody looks at it now and goes, well, thank God. That was an important civil rights victory. But he looks at that and says, no, you are infringing on states' rights when you do that. Now, he did try to clean up the mess afterwards, but in my opinion, he did not do a good job. So this is from The Hill. Quote, earlier during a virtual press conference, I misunderstood a line of questioning that ended up being about interracial marriage. Let me be clear on that issue. There is no question the Constitution prohibits discrimination of any kind based on race. This is not something that is even up for debate, and I condemn racism in any form, at all levels, and by any states, entities, or individuals. But look at the wording there. He says, I misunderstood a line of questioning. You didn't misunderstand it. The guy pressed repeatedly to get a clear answer, and his answer was as clear as you could be. He didn't misunderstand it. He said something that is horrifically stupid and bigoted, and then now he's got to walk it back and be like, I didn't hear. I didn't hear what you said. No, you heard it, but now after you notice that, 92% of the country is against you, you're like, me? I don't even know what you guys are talking about. No. I think, of course, interracial marriage should be legal, etc.
That's why you can't be on either. That's why you can't be 100% on either side of the issue. It depends on the issue. Sometimes, you should be for states' rights. Like states back 20 years ago when they started to legalize gay marriage when the federal government wouldn't do it. Or states right now legalizing marijuana when it's still illegal federally. I want the federal government to leave them alone and let them legalize it. But likewise, you need state government to, right now, prevent them from, banning interracial marriage, gay marriage, and of course right now, abortion too, which is going to be a big concern coming up. So you need both things depending on the circumstances. You can't be on one side or the other because sometimes they're wrong.
Well, then why'd you say the exact opposite? Why'd you say the exact opposite? A spokesperson told The Hill that Braun believes in Loving versus Virginia, and he says it shouldn't be open.
That's the rule about legalizing interracial marriage, too, for anyone that doesn't know.
The Times of Northwest Indiana, that's the outlet that was asking the question there, noted that Braun had been asked about the subject in different ways and several times to make sure he understood the nature of the question. So in other words, the publication is saying, this is bullshit. We asked and made it clear he understood what we were saying, and he gave a clear answer. So the paper is saying, we don't believe him. He said, states' rights are more important, so they should be able to decide if they want to overturn interracial marriage. And then now after the backlash, he's just like, okay, my bad. Okay, you twisted my arm, guys. This is really not one that's debatable or open for debate. Amazing. So, this is an area where public pressure, works, in the sense that when he realized, 90% of the country is like, fuck off, he's like, no, I didn't mean that. But stop and think about this. How would he have reacted if it was only 60% or 65% of the country that was annoyed with what he was saying here? Or if the backlash was only 30% less severe? What would he have done? Maybe there's no clarification. Maybe he doesn't shift his tone immediately. He let his real opinion slide there for a second. Yeah. And now this is instructive. It really is. This is educational. Because now you guys know the way that these issues are discussed at a national level. Oftentimes, some of the worst beliefs and policies are masked with a veneer of respectability of this is just about states' rights. And just be on the lookout for other issues that are like this too, where the actual claim being made seems more sanitized, but the underlying reality of the policy that's being advocated for is actually toxic and odious. Ever since Adpocalypse...
That's the thing about states' rights, like I said. It's usually always a mask. So, what do you guys say about that video? Fucking idiots as always.
Yeah. Of course. But that's not surprising. Like I said, they literally don't believe... they literally believe that some of those percent probably believe black people don't deserve to exist.
Yeah, so like we said, when it comes to like states' rights and the federal government, you can't be on either side. Depending on the circumstances, one's right over the other. That's why I keep telling people all the time on this one. Alright, so that was fun making fun to see it. So, see you guys next time on April Fool's Day, funny enough. Hopefully we can find some very funny topics to talk about to celebrate that day. So, see you